Good morning, everyone. Well, for some people on the East Coast, it might be the afternoon. And welcome. We appreciate your joining us as we explore how to ease into school or district-wide PBL by fall of 2021. My name is Beth Frost Johnson, and I am the moderator for today's webinar. The stress caused by the pandemic requires leaders to initiate a new and workable plan with clear first steps to begin this fall. Okay, we have some work to do. Dr. Mortimer is Foundry's Chief Learning Officer, working with educators, schools, districts, and consultants to make deeper learning a reality for teachers and learners. Camille has taught and led across K-12 and higher education and was the founder of a birth through 8th grade expeditionary learning school in Milwaukee's Central City. The challenges of that work are the foundation of her work today. Camille, welcome and tell us about that.
Thanks, Beth. I'm really happy to be here and talking about this really important topic because we're at a really important time. The school in Milwaukee was really a crucible of learning for everybody, for kids, for parents, for teachers, administrators, the community, and especially for me. Our design was expeditionary learning, it was project-based and standards-based. And students had really extraordinary opportunities for inquiry-based real-world learning, and we had a culture built for this kind of work and really built for kids. We had 500 students, 2 buildings, 184 learning goals that we tracked for growth and reported on 8 times a year. Now, that might seem like silly detail, but I share it with you because it's really essential to why I'm here today. We spent triple the usual days in professional learning. We created teacher sharing methods. We did an extraordinary job conferencing with students and parents and showcasing remarkable work by teachers and by students. But we didn't have technology that was adequate to manage the work of this complexity. And so what we did was, well, we cheated the platform that we used to give us the data that we needed. And also we compromised. We changed our model because, not entirely, but we kind of rounded off the edges and tucked stuff away that we couldn't do because we were lacking technology that fit our work. This is how I came to be at Foundry and this work. The ability to do personalized, deeper learning requires technology that understands the goals and the workflow of this kind of work. So let's talk about that. You know, years ago, as a young elementary principal, I had the opportunity to learn this idea about teachers as leaders and how key they are to making change happen. I was trying to move our reading program from basal readers to guided reading. So that tells you how long ago it was. And our faculty was having none of it. I invited, I pushed, I cajoled, I incentivized to no avail. And then one day, a wonderful first grade teacher approached me and she said she wanted to make a deal. She wanted to get real books for her kids. What she said she'd do is give me all of her reading workbook budget back if she could buy real books for her kids with that money. And so now the tables were turned, on me. I had to choose. Did I really have the guts to give up daily guidance of workbooks and let kids really read and explore? Well, we came to a bargain. Okay, I said, yes, but tear the teacher manual apart and use that as a frame, a guide to the pathway. So sort of a compromised solution here. What happened next really astounded me. Within 2 weeks, the 2nd grade teacher was in my office and wanted real books for her kids. And so it went. The 5th grade teacher was next. Until 6 months later, we had 10 faculty members who wanted me to attend a course at the university on guided reading, and they couldn't go as a team without their principal. Well, I couldn't have been more surprised that giving Mary, the 1st grade teacher, real books was going to have this result. So the question became for me, how do we really pay attention and meet teachers where they are, give them the space and the respect and the partners that they need to explore new ideas that allows them to conquer the fear and begin really hard work. So project-based learning is really hard work. The thing about it is it's such great work that it in fact allows mitigates the hardness and allows the amazing joy of real world learning to come alive. So why do it? You get better outcomes. Kids learn more. Students are more deeply engaged. That's partly why they learn more. And they build student agency. The biggest payoff of all, they build agency. They become owners of their own learning. And there's an opportunity to have really enormous impact on the community and the world. These are the things I love about project-based learning. Recent research, you may have seen this, but I wanted to point to it if you haven't, or remind you if you had, that there are 4 studies across 5 universities, University of Southern California, Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Stanford, for heaven's sakes, who did extensive research on project-based learning. Now, they said really clearly the PBL needed to be rigorous, real world, and it needed to be at the center of the curriculum, not hanging on the end as a project we'll do later. But with those qualities in mind, these 4 studies found that AP courses that used real-world project-based learning had improved outcomes for 8 to 10% of all kinds of students. Didn't matter where they started, they improved significantly by 8 to 10%. There were increased social studies and literacy achievement in elementary schools, and the literacy achievement was particularly surprising because of the improvement for students who were struggling readers. A 3rd grade science program increased achievement and social emotional learning, surprisingly, and that was by 8 percentage points. These aren't easy gains to get, are they? And the middle school science program that was PBL based led to science gains of 11% and higher proficiency for English language learners than traditional learning classrooms. This is the case in all of these studies. They produce these results compared to traditional learning classrooms. You'll find that research at the Lucas Foundation is one place that you can find that. So this was exciting to see all of this research. And it really points to the reality that this kind of real world work, whether it's out in the community, doing science in the field, in the lab, in classrooms, working together collaboratively in groups, individually, doing deep thinking about complex problems, all of that leads to engagement at a level that drives students toward school, toward learning, reducing absenteeism, raising the levels of work completed, raising graduation rates. So student engagement is really key here. And teachers know that. The question is, why is it so hard for some schools and districts to get started? Why do they struggle with beginning? So I was thinking about that, and I listed some of what I had in mind here. I mean, it's not hard to think about, starting something new during a pandemic, following a pandemic. Even so, there's burnout across all levels of learning right now, probably around the world, and teachers are torn about even whether they're going to continue teaching. So we know we have an interesting challenge in this regard, and they feel uncertain about the future, what will happen this fall. So the pandemic has had great influence. But I think there's also, aside from the pandemic, the reality that fear is a motivator in trying something new. And so for PBL, people have fear of failure or shame that they won't succeed if they're succeeding in a traditional classroom with the methods that they have been using. Why would they hurry to give them up? Maybe we should back up and look at that student engagement slide, right? Teachers worry that there's going to be a lot more work. And it is true. Project-based learning is work. It's a different kind of work. So that means changing up the kind of work. But there are ways to solve this work burden problem, and we're going to talk about that today. Teachers fear they aren't going to have voice and choice, the ability to control their future and what's going to happen, that things are going to be forced upon them. They're also worried that if they begin these new methods, they may in fact lose control of their classrooms, lose control of their time, lose control of the ability to be successful. And then I think that there's this big fear that everybody has, not just teachers, is there's no way to manage this stuff. It feels unmanageable. How do you, in fact, deal with every student as an individual? How do you personalize the work? How do you manage the time to get all of that done and use your time well, effectively? That there are too many kids to do this work, and that assessing is going to be really complex because of the individualizing of the work and using evidence-based approaches to the work. So, you know, all of that really requires that the right technology be in place to support this. And there's real fear that there is not technology that's going to solve that. So it can really feel overwhelming. It makes good sense to think carefully as you begin. But if we go back and look at the engagement slide, and we go back and we look at the outcome slide and the increases in performance that are the result of project-based learning and personalizing, it means it's time to begin. And so at this moment, when we have July and August to prepare for September, what might we do to begin? So the first order of business is to start small. Plan on starting small. This is not a time to begin the be-all and end-all program in project-based learning. Number one, you won't be successful because you need to begin by building this in a layered way. And number two, there just isn't enough time left. So be sensible about it and take on the reality that you want to start small and you want to go to your teachers and make sure you're listening with care. What's going on for them, right? What are the things that stand as fears for them? You want to make PBL an opportunity, not a mandate, right? So forcing this onto people is not likely to result in highly engaged, joyful learning for your kids. So how do we make it an opportunity? You need to make a plan. Now, the thing about making a plan is we have this impulse to make the big plan, make the whole plan, all the way to the end plan. 5 years from now, what will it look like? And you have this vision. You should craft that vision. You should name it, put it up on a board and look at it, okay? Put pictures of places that look like you want your place to look. Yeah, craft the vision. So do a kind of backward design. If this is the picture of what we want, how do we go backward and find out, well, what are the things that are going to lead us there? And then we're going to start small with those smaller things. So if in fact we want kids to be able to talk about their learning, we need to be able to have them actually exploring questions that are of interest and engagement to them so they know what it is they're trying to learn and they can design around that. How might they learn it so that the learning becomes theirs and they could talk about it, they could present about it. You want to do some backward design here and get back to the first order principles. So the other thing you might want to think about is what expertise do we already have? So internally and externally, what expertise might be available to us? This expertise might be teachers. It might actually be parents or kids. It might be people in leadership. It might be people in central office. It might be consultants externally. But what kind of help do you need with your plan? And then gathering a team. And by making it an opportunity, invitation and volunteers is the first way I think you want to go. Who's ready right now to say, I want to be part of that? That's the place to start. And you want to find broad representation across different disciplines, across different grades, people who have different interests that they're interested in developing in project-based learning with their students. And then you need to provide resources to that team. So But it doesn't take a lot to be thinking together and planning together. So begin small, but get started. You're going to want to very rapidly showcase results. So very early, very early. So a lot of schools wait to showcase what's happening. But I think what you really want to do is dive into, here's what happened for kids. Here's what kids say happened for them. Here's the work they produced. Here's what teachers said happened for them. Here's how we recognize the growth that's happened. So I think showcasing is something to plan for early in your year. And then to give access to the right platform. And we're going to talk significantly about what you need in a platform to support this work. One of the discoveries I made is that without, as I told you, without a proper platform to do this work, it is simply not scalable. So you could start this summer, perhaps, right? But very, very shortly thereafter, you are going to be in need of a platform. And the right platform is a guide and support that allows you to start. So it'll make PBL enjoyable, and it really will allow teachers to become the advisors, the guides on the side that is the beauty of this work. Let's take a look at the essential requirements of technology for PBL success. We're going to start by looking at our platform at Foundry, but whether you use our platform or some other PBL platform, I want to say you need a platform. And I want to talk about the essential requirements that you're going to need for your success. So again, whether it's Foundry or some other platform, these 8 essentials are required. We'll be looking at Foundry examples. So the first requirement is that you have a platform that has guided project design and project management and archiving. You're looking here at a planning form for a long form gold standard project plan. And you can see that it has the big idea, driving and guiding questions. What are the roles students will take? It's got interdisciplinary learning targets and skills, 21st century skills. It has resources available. It has the ability to talk to students as the work's going along. You also need to have the ability to manage projects. So the multiple projects that are going to emerge as the work goes on for one student or multiple students, and the ability to archive that work, save it for sharing and for reuse. That's requirement 1. Requirement 2, the technology should be learner-centered. At its heart, it should be learner-centered. It should be built for students and for teachers, for students and administrators, for students and for parents, but for students at the heart of the matter. Here in Foundry, you're looking at the personal learning plan page. Aaliyah, our student of the moment, has written a personal statement about herself. She's been crafting goals for academics, for personal and social goals. She also has enormous agency in this platform, the ability to create experiences herself, to be the author of experiences and seek, request her teacher's approval to do a learning experience. She can add tasks to her work. She can write logs about how she's using her time, journals about how she feels about her work. She can curate evidence into the platform, and she's doing this work. And so the agency to own the learning is really powerful. Aaliyah can even run her own reports and transcripts, as can everyone else who uses the platform and is given those permissions. So, requirement 2. Requirement 3 is you're looking for an intuitive education workflow management platform for everybody. So in this case, in Foundry, we're looking at the work to do page for the teacher. Administrators see this page as well. We're looking now at the workflow page for the student and for groups of students. We also have that same workflow management and view into this work for parents and for coaches. Number 4, context-based communication. So, you know, when we're communicating with students and we're mentoring project-based work forward, when we're doing personalized work, we need to talk to students, whether we're in the same place or we're working asynchronously. And so one of the powers of a great platform for this work is that communication is context-based. That is to say, it is where the communication is where the work is happening. If a project plan is happening, can you communicate about it within the plan? Can you talk with the student talk with you? When a student is curating evidence and turning that evidence into the portfolio and to the teacher for assessment, can they talk with each other about the work? Right there where the evidence is, not in email, right? Not in messaging within the platform, but communication directly within. What you're seeing here is a journal, one of Aaliyah's journals, a reflection about a woman she admires. And you see that her teacher responded to her, Aaliyah, how did you discover Barbara Hillary? And she responds to her teacher. The teacher's back to her again and again, finally setting up a meeting about a challenge the student wants to take on. All within the journal, there and permanently there. So context-based communication. Number 5, performance assessment and data analytics for everybody and real time. So here's Aaliyah. Aaliyah can see this. Her teacher can see it. The administrators can see it. Her parents can see it. Mentors, if they're given permission, can see it. And what can they see? They see how well Aaliyah's doing, how much she's gotten done, how well she's doing it. They're able to look into the detail along with Aaliyah as to what's been completed by either standards or competencies in what kind of learning experience. And the student is able to see specifically what's required to be done in this standards-based approach. And again, all of the users of the platform have access to this. So an essential requirement. By the way, in Foundry, all of this language is fully configurable. These are standards, they could be competencies. This could be organized not by discipline, but by learning goals or a variety of other ways. So, performance assessment, data analytics. Next, number 6, learner-curated portfolio of learning. One of the essential qualities of this work is for students to be saying, here's what I've done, here's why it mattered to me. This is how I grew. And so you see here, we're looking at a project plan about mapping Mill Pond. You see that context-based chatter back and forth about the project. The big ideas here, this is the work that's being done. Curated into the portfolio is formative work along the way, a mind map for planning, summative work, a paper summarizing, and a project analysis, a photojournal, a time log where the student's talking about how she spent her time, what she did with her time, and why it mattered, and a journal about something she discovered about this kind of work that was being done actually in Cleveland, in another city. So all of this curated work is the student's choice to put this into this portfolio that is her evidence of learning growth, the quality of a platform fit for this kind of project-based personalized work. Number 7, full personalization capability. You know, the work doesn't have to be bound by courses or by credits or by cohort. Many of us have long-term goals that education will move away from these things that bind us to traditional ways of learning. A platform that's really ready to do this work is one that can fully personalize. And so what we're looking at here is a map of jagged development, jaggedness of human development and human difference between two young women, same age, right? In the average, the middle, these are the things they share and their lows and their highs. This difference is something that we have learned we must honor. And so how do we do that? A platform that has the ability to do that, to customize forms to the work and the people doing it, to have learning targets and skills that are appropriate to the place and the work and can be individualized as needed. Learning plans that are built around not only what are the expectations of the school, but who the student is and what needs to be done by when, taking time as a movable option here for helping to personalize students' work, and using scales that are appropriate to the work, the place, and the student and where they are in their learning. All of this kind of personalization is really key to doing this work well. And number 8, the right platform, the platform fit for this work is future ready. It's a configurable platform that's designed for growth. And so it could be the growth of your teachers, of your students. It could be growth requiring new learning plans. It could be for a long-term vision change. It could be for program goals, changing requirements of programs. It could be change for new partnerships, needing new learning targets or competencies or standards. All of this configurability is deeply essential to being able to do this work by fall 2021. How is it that in fact you could start small, use a platform that is built to support and guide this work, but allow you to start small, to start simple, but when you're ready, you're able to grow in the platform. In other words, expand the platform to your new needs. And so this is the 8th and perhaps the most complicated of these particular requirements to be able to do personalized project-based learning. Are you future ready? Are you growth ready? How do you start small and drive forward? The key, of course, is that to do this work at scale really requires the ability for you to have technology that scales with you from beginning to complex and sophisticated. These are the 8 essential qualities or requirements of technology for PBL success. We'd be happy to make these available to you. As a matter of fact, I think Beth will make sure that you get this information. We hope that it's really useful for you in thinking about what are the qualities of this work. You might also think about this in regard to what are the qualities or requirements of technology, and what would you do to do this without technology? How would you do this without technology? And think of the workflow that is there for your teachers and your students and everyone else who supports them. So kind of a comparative with and without. So we will be getting this to you. So Foundry is an open platform that grows with your teachers and your students as they grow. It's suitable to all kinds of deeper learning. It supports and guides the workflow and data collection of truly personalized learning. So I really want you to consider these aspects as you're diving in to PBL. And know that along with others, Foundry also provides transformation services for phased growth to schools and districts directly, or supporting consultants who are guiding this work along with your internal work. So what do great leaders do? In summary, they give people what they need to succeed. And it's really the best gift of all. And they build individual capacity because the organization's capacity is built on individual capacity. It really doesn't have capacity of its own. It is only the quality of the individual's capacity that is the reckoning of what is the organization able to do. Great leaders remove barriers. And your goal right now is to find that team and set that team free to run at an inspiring rate for their own growth. And then my last counsel again is to start small, create your vision, long term, but do now. do the present right now. So we wish you courage and tenacity and the joy of new learning. And I'm happy to hear any questions that you have.
Thanks, Camille. Just before we start our Q&A, if you would like to have a demo of our Foundry solution, you can request that at projectfoundry.com. All right, our first question is, fall 2021 is only 2 weeks or 2 months away. How long does it take for Foundry to be ready for use?
So I can only speak to the Foundry platform, but Foundry, the Foundry platform can be provided to schools, districts, teachers, fully configured. So it can have standards or competencies, 21st century skills already built into it. It can have scales that are already designed to be selected for the approach the local place is taking. All of that configuration, including custom designed forms for the particular kind of work, all of that can be provided up front so that the work that the new users need to do is put in their students and create their groups and name when they're going to report. Those 3 things. So starting by fall is possible because you can use a platform that's already been fully configured. If you, in fact, were going to take longer time, you could configure your own learning targets, whether they're standards or competencies. You could do the work of designing your own scales, creating your own forms. But we can provide all of that already created. And then the work that happens is learning how to use the platform, maybe a day's work to begin to feel facile, and then begin creating learning experiences. And many, many people have already begun creating those experiences. So then it's a matter of entering them. So that's how you would begin this summer with this platform.
Thank you, Camille. Our second question is, what kind of professional development should we plan for when starting PBL?
Mm-hmm. So I think that one size fits all is not a good way to think about professional learning. You know, by becoming personalized in providing professional learning, you're going to get much closer to where teachers are. So the question is, who are you providing the professional learning for? Where are they? And therefore, what should happen? So we all know, you know, we've all had the experience of coming into a big room with all the teachers there, and we all start in the same place. But the problem, of course, is that some people have already stopped listening, and other people are way ahead of where the presenters are. So I think the question is, how do you personalize this work? So the qualities of great project-based learning are clearly defined. There are enormous numbers of examples online with really expert providers of that information. So I think personalizing that work using those resources. The other thing to do would be to use an educational consultant or support organization that believes in personalization for teachers, right? Not just for students. So it doesn't make any sense to say one size fits all for teachers, but not for students. It's just not how humans are. So finding those supports, I think, is essential. I guess I would say one other thing. Had we had, you know, half an hour, I would say instructionally, the places I would begin would be thinking about inquiry. Are you doing inquiry? And what does inquiry look like in every lesson, in every unit, in every project? What does inquiry look like? How are courses designed as inquiries, right, rather than a scope and sequence? So I would think that would be a place to begin. Another place to begin would be, what will be the evidence of learning? So what are we trying to accomplish here? And what will be the evidence of learning? And how will we help students to be able to talk about that growth? So teachers thinking about evidence and what does quality evidence look like? Those would be two. Inquiry and evidence might be two really solid places to begin, even if you didn't dive into pure PBL as you begin this fall.
Okay, thank you very much, Camille, and thank you to all of our attendees. You will be receiving an email with a link to the webinar, and we encourage you to share that with others, both within your school and within your school district. And again, you can visit our website at projectfoundry.com, and we have also many opportunities in our resource center for you to look at prior webinars or to download some great PBL information. So thank you, everyone, and courage, tenacity, and joy of new learning. And you can start in the fall. Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.